Hello there, Keith Downing, presenting for Group 3, Chapter 19, Enable and Inject Learning into Daily Work. Members of Group 3, Ryan Jackson, and myself, Keith Downing. Establish a just learning culture. When responses to incidents and accidents are seen as unjust, it can impede safety investigations, promoting fear rather than mindfulness in people who do safety-critical work, making organizations more bureaucratic than more careful, and cultivating professional secrecy, evasion, and self-protection. If accidents are not caused by bad apples, but rather are due to inevitable design problems in the complex system that we created, then instead of naming, blaming, and shaming the person who caused the failure, our goal should always be to maximize opportunities for organizational learning, continually reinforcing that we value actions that expose and share more widely the problems in our daily work. This is what enables us to improve the quality and safety of the system we operate within and reinforce the relationships between everyone who operates within that system. Two effective practices that help create a just learning-based culture are blameless postmortems and the controlled introduction of failures into production to create opportunities to practice for the inevitable problems that arise within complex systems. Schedule blameless postmortem meetings after accidents occur. To do this, we schedule the postmortem as soon as possible after the accident occurs and before memories and the links between cause and effect fade or circumstances changes. Of course, we wait until after the problem has been resolved so as not to distract the people who are still actively working on the issue. In the blameless postmortem meeting, we do the following. We construct a timeline and gather details from multiple perspectives on failures, ensuring we don't punish people for making mistakes. Empower all engineers to improve safety by allowing them to give detailed accounts of their contributions to failures. Enable and encourage people who do make mistakes to be the expert to educate the rest of the organization on how to not make them in the future. Accept that there is always a discretionary space where humans can decide to take action or not, and that the judgment of those decisions lie in hindsight. Propose countermeasures to prevent a similar accident from happening in the future and ensure these countermeasures are recorded with a target date and an owner for follow-up. During the meeting and subsequent resolution, we should explicitly disallow the phrases would have or could have, as they are counterfactual statements that result from our human tendency to create possible alternatives to events that have already occurred. Publish our postmortem as widely as possible. After we conduct a blameless postmortem meeting, we should widely announce the availability of the meeting notes and any associated artifacts, e.g. timelines, IRC chat logs, internal communications. This information should ideally be placed in a centralized location where our entire organization can access it and learn from the incident. Conducting postmortems is so important that we may even prohibit production incidents from being closed until the postmortem meeting has been completed. Decrease incident tolerances to find ever weaker failure signals. Inevitably, as organizations learn how to see and solve problems efficiently, they need to decrease the threshold of what constitutes a problem in order to keep learning. To do this, we seek to amplify weak failure signals. Michael Roberto, Richard M.J. Bomer, and Amy C. Edmondson wrote in a 2006 article for Harvard Business Review how NASA culture contributed to this problem. They described how organizations are typically structured in one of two models: a standardized model, where routine and systems govern everything, including strict compliance with timelines and budgets, or an experimental model where every day, every exercise, and every piece of new information is evaluated and debated in a culture that resembles a research and development or R&D laboratory. Our work in technology value stream, like space travel, should be approached as fundamentally experimental endeavor and managed that way. All work we do is potentially important hypothesis and a source of data rather than a routine application or validation of past practice. Instead of treating technology work as entirely standardized, where we strive for the process compliance, we must continually seek to find ever weaker failure signals so that we can better understand and manage the system we operate in. Redefine failure and encourage calculated risk-taking. Leaders of an organization, whether deliberately or inadvertently, reinforce the organizational culture and values through their actions. Audit accounting and ethics experts have long observed that the tone at the top predicts the likelihood of fraud and other unethical practices. To reinforce our culture of learning and calculated risk-taking, we need leaders to continually reinforce that everyone should feel both comfortable with and responsible for surfacing and learning from failures. DevOps must allow this sort of innovation and the resulting risks of people making mistakes. Yes, you'll have more failures in production, but that's a good thing and should not be punished. Inject production failures to enable resilience and learning. In this section, we describe the processes involved in rehearsing and injecting failures into our system to confirm that we have designed and architected our system properly, so that failures happen in specific and controlled ways. We do this by regularly or even continuously performing tests to make certain that our systems fail gracefully. Resilience requires that we first define our failure modes and then perform testing to ensure that these failure modes operate as designed. One way we do this is by injecting faults into our production environment and rehearsing large-scale failures so we are confident we can recover from accidents when they occur, ideally without even impacting our customers. Institute game days to rehearse failures. Our goal for game day is to help teams simulate and rehearse accidents to give them the ability to practice. First, we should schedule a catastrophic event, such as the simulated destruction of an entire data center, to happen at some point in the future. We then give teams time to prepare to eliminate all single points of failure and to create the necessary monitoring procedures, failover procedures, etc. Our game day team defines and executes drills such as conducting database failovers, i.e. simulating a database failure and ensuring that the secondary database works, or turning off an important network connection to expose problems in defined processes. Any problems or difficulties that are encountered are identified, addressed, and tested again. By executing game days, we progressively create a more resilient service and a higher degree of assurance that we can resume operations when inopportune events occur, as well as create more learnings and a more resilient organization. In conclusion, to create a just culture that enables organizational learning, we must recontextualize so-called failures. When treated properly, errors that are inherent in complex systems can create a dynamic learning environment where all the shareholders feel safe enough to come forward with ideas and observations, and where groups rebound more readily from projects that don't perform as expected. Both blameless postmortems and injecting production failures reinforce a culture that everyone should feel both comfortable with and responsible for surfacing and learning from failures. In fact, when we sufficiently reduce the number of accidents, we decrease our tolerance so that we can keep learning.